Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Nile and Gerry Tea Podcast, a podcast where we spill the tea about competitive magic and the ethics and etiquette therein. I am your host, Nile Joan Rivers, joined with me, as always, my very good friend, Jerry Thompson, putting the tea in Gerry Tea. How you doing, Jerry?
Hell yeah, I am. I'm doing great. A little sleepy, but otherwise good. I have a Red Bull, of course. So
I have an actual, and this is rare for the show. I actually do have a tea, which is kind of nice. I have a vanilla rose, um, I think oat milk or something,
okay,
black tea,
I'm a
with
little jealous.
bobas. Uh, it's sick. It's sick as fuck. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think vanilla and rose are both flavors that are delicious, but are very easy to fuck up because you can just overdo it really easy. But this place does not overdo it. They hit you with the perfect amount of vanilla, the perfect amount of rose. This has been my tea of choice for a minute now.
Let's go.
But yeah, so today on this our 19th episode, we have a discussion that sort of crosses the bridge between casual and competitive play. And what we are talking about is something that has been a thing I've wanted to do like a video or something on for a long time. Um, and that is talking about, I like to refer to it as code switching in Magic, which, if you're unfamiliar with code switching as a concept, it is simply just like how you change the way that you speak for different environments. It's like the way that you talk with your friends or your partner is not the same way that you talk to like your boss, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like you your manner of speaking changes. This is called code switching. I think there is a similar thing that occurs in Magic, or should occur in Magic, where you're not always playing in the same environment, or likely you aren't. Especially, I think, if you're a competitive player, because as competitive players, we are very accustomed to playing in tournaments and in tournament settings, and that is like a very different vibe than how most people play Magic. Like when you sit down to play at a tournament, it's usually, this is not always the case, but usually the sort of dynamic between you and your opponent is we both want to do everything in our power to defeat the other one. We are both like locked the fuck in to thinking about this game, thinking about our opponent, thinking about all this stuff. Um, it's not unfriendly, but it is like, it's got a more serious tone. It's got a more serious tone. Uh, I think people commonly are a lot shorter with each other in a way that I think, like, if you're not a competitive player, if you're not used to that, it can feel rude. Like if you don't know this is like the expectation and like how we operate, I could very easily see you playing in a competitive environment and be like, all my opponents were really like short and rude with me and not like having a good fun time. And some people, and I think this is like a high level of skill thing, some people can be a fucking shark pro player, qualify for worlds while being so jokey and friendly. And that's really awesome. I love playing against those people. I love playing against the Corey Burkharts, Jesse Robkins of the world. That's not everybody. That's not everybody, and that's fine. Like it is our culture. It is the culture of competitive play. But the culture of casual play is so wildly different. Like the whole reason people play Commander, like the whole reason people are like, this is why I like this format, it's because they're like, well, I get to play with more of my friends at once. Like it is a social format. It is a format that is meant to be played with a bunch of people. Like it is, you sit there and you're joking around, you're talking around, like there's a reason all the Magic gameplay shows are like Commander gameplay shows and not like two tournament grinders facing off, not saying a fucking word to each other. You know, like it's
every couple of minutes there's like a grunt here or there.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's just how it is. And I think this is fine. Like I think it's fine and cool and good that the different formats of Magic kind of have their own etiquette and customs and culture and all this shit tied to them. Where it gets a little tricksy is when these worlds collide. And the worlds collide pretty frequently because you can be a tournament grinder, you can be a Pro Tour champion. There's still going to be some Friday nights where you're like, I could pop into my F&M. You know, there's still going to be a set that comes out that you're like, this looks cool. I'm going to go to the pre-release for this. You know, or you've just got some friends over and you're just playing a fun, friendly game with a much more casual player. So when you sit down to that F&M, to that pre-release, to that kitchen table Magic, and when you identify that your opponent is not a fellow tournament grinder, Giga Spike, fucking, you know, PT champion, then how do you behave?
I'd be as rude as possible to rattle them.
Yeah. That way I can get my extra pack at F&M.
Yeah, exactly. Stonks. I think that I kind of accidentally got okay at doing this through being like a person in the community with some notoriety. And also just having like some amount of autism and being like masking a lot certainly helps with the ability to code switch as well. But
sure.
Regardless, having people come up and talk to you about a wide range of topics. So like, I'm a fan. And then you're like, okay, what kind of fan are you? And they're like, this is the first big tournament I've been to or whatever. It's like, I've only played kitchen table. And it's like, okay, well, I have to figure out ways to engage with you in this moment that are maybe different than like, oh, what did you think about the last batch of like Magic Online 5.0 deck dumps or whatever? You know, it's like, they're clearly not hyper invested, but I can now find ways to connect with those folks on different levels and stuff. And that certainly helps by going to pre-releases or doing any sort of like content creation kind of thing, or being like a guest of honor, doing like spell slinging at a Grand Prix or a pre-release or anything, which I have done a lot of in the past. So it is really weird because then I see folks who were my peers doing the same thing, but being unable to switch modes and having the people that they're interacting with being very, very unsatisfied with the whole experience. Or even seeing like them play against someone like that in a tournament, like in a Grand Prix or something. And they're just like, yeah, that person was an asshole. But it's like, no, if you talk to them after the match, then they're going to go back to being like their personable, normal self. Right. But just, yeah, in that moment, it's like, if you don't know what you're in for, it's not like rude, but it is short a lot of the time when you're playing a match against someone who is very competitive.
Yeah. And, I mean, I think for similar reasons, I got good at it. I think if you want like free points against me and you run into me at a tournament, when we sit down, just say, oh, I'm such a huge fan. Because then any fucking mistake you make when the judge comes over and is like, it's up to you. Do you want to like fuck them on this? I'll be like, no, it's fine. They can have it. You know, like I will leak equity like crazy if I'm like, this person knows who I am and likes me. Mostly because I really want to avoid the situation where you then go post on wherever and you're like, I queued into Nile at a tournament and she was a huge bitch just because I like.
Well, what if the post was I was a huge fan of Nile, but wow, she played.
But
like
then
shit,
I saw
and now,
what a pushover she was.
Yeah, and now I'm not a big fan anymore. You know,
like you gotta like take the risks.
I beat her so easily. It's like, how could this be the person that I was looking up to?
I missed my pack trigger and she didn't even make me lose the game. It was crazy.
Yeah.
No, it's a whole thing. But yeah, I think because of that, all the stuff you mentioned, and also just because like so much of what I have done in this space has been focused on the new player experience, I think has made me like especially good at playing with and against newer players. And so for me, it's pretty easy to code switch. Now, something I think I struggle more with is I think sometimes I misidentify where someone is at and what they are wanting.
Yep.
Which I always start from a position of we are on equal footing. That's always like my default assumption is anyone I sit down to play against, I'm like, we are both, we're both here for the same thing until like proven differently. And I mean, the thing that sticks out in my mind the most, I think I talked about this on here. I can't remember, but I went to a pre-release for Final Fantasy, I think. And round one of the pre-release, I play against this guy. I end up 2-0ing him. And in both games, I very much had the vibe of like, okay, we're both tournament players and we're playing tournament style, which is cool. I'm into it. At pre-release, I feel like I'm extra sensitive to like you could be a new player.
Yep.
I'm more on the lookout for it, but I very much had the vibe that's what we were. Both games, he scooped a little early, and at the end of the match, he tells me that the way I was flicking cards in my hand was giving him anxiety because I just do like the hand shuffle thing. And I was like, I'm sorry, and he was like, yeah, whatever you were doing with the cards, I didn't understand why you were doing it, and it was giving me anxiety, and that's why I conceded the match. And I was like, I'm sorry, like you didn't say anything. If you had said anything, I would have stopped for sure. But I was like, do you want me to explain to you why I was doing it? Because he had been like, I didn't understand. That's what made me anxious. And he was like, nope, I just wanted you to know. And it kind of pissed me off, to be honest, just because I was like, you could have said something at any point. But also, it was a thing for me of like, I assumed we were both kind of approaching this in the same way. And, this is just like what I would do if I was like playing in a tournament, but not what I would do if I was playing against like a brand new person. So I felt kind of like weird and bad and fucked up afterwards, where I was like, man, I should have done a better job identifying where this guy was and meeting him on his level.
I think a lot of that happens in the pregame, or it can. Like you can get a lot of valuable information, not about like what deck they're playing, but just what sort of speed they're on, And
yeah,
I think the hand shuffling thing too is like a pretty big giveaway. Like if you notice that your opponent is not doing it, then it's like, well, you can probably reasonably make some assumptions about them. Like it could be like an online mostly player.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, like new to paper, yeah, that kind of vibe. Yeah, no, it was definitely just like a thing where afterwards I was like, oh, I should have paid better attention. I should have, whatever. I mean, ultimately, they also just should have fucking told me that I was annoying them or making them anxious or whatever.
That's why when you told me that before, I was just like, that sounds like cope.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's certainly a bit copey. It's certainly a bit copey. But it's just when those worlds collide. Or there was one at this was actually a different Final Fantasy pre-release. I think that same weekend. But this one was a 2-headed giant pre-release. I was playing 2-headed giant with my friend Z, and we were playing against these two dudes. And one of them played this green card that I had not seen before, despite being a Final Fantasy ambassador, having had access to the file for like a month, having been sent cards early. Still was just seeing cards all the time that I was like, what the fuck is this? So he plays this card. It's got a lot of text on it. He says like something that it does, and I pick it up to read it. And not even the guy whose card it was, but the other head of the 2-headed giant goes, can you ask next time, please? And I said, what do you mean? And he was like, before you touch our cards, will you just ask next time? And I was like, oh, sure. And so I made a mental note, don't touch their cards at all. If you If you don't know what a card does, too fucking bad. We'll figure it out. You know, we'll context clues it because I felt weird in this interaction, and I'm just not gonna, whatever. But that is a common thing. That is a common, like, that specifically, like the card touching thing is a very common sort of like cultural etiquette distinction between casual and competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people, even I don't know, as far back as like a decade, who were ahead of their time, I would say, and would say something to the effect of like, "Oh, can I touch your card? Can I read that?" or whatever. And depending on the rapport of the match, again, I think a lot of this has to do with code switching in terms of like whether or not you were able to establish a friendly rapport or kind of get on their level or whatnot. But it's like they say, can I see your card? And I just say no. And then I just laugh and I'm like, yeah, of course you can see it. It's a game piece. Pick it up.
Yeah.
Like, why are you even asking me? I don't understand. But yeah, apparently they were before their time.
Yeah, okay, so I think like I would guess 90 to 95% of our audience is competitive players, but I think there is a percentage of casual players who are just kind of interested in what things are like in this part of the world. So for those people, if you're unaware, you can just fucking touch cards in tournaments. And not only is it like A, kind of just baked into the rules, but B, per the rules, you are supposed to shuffle your opponent's deck before a game. Like you'll shuffle.
I don't do that.
I don't always do it. It really depends on the opponent. But you shuffle your deck, you present it to your opponent. Usually people will just cut the deck from there. Very technically speaking, you're supposed to shuffle it in that moment. Like you're supposed to pick up your opponent's deck, shuffle it, and then present it to them. So like it is literally the rules that I will have to touch your cards, all of them at once, and mash them together. Like I have to fucking handle these cards.
But if you want to pick one up individually, you gotta ask.
Yeah, if I want to gently pick one up. But also, like, we have timed rounds. Like, we have 50 minutes to play 3 games, which a lot of the time is like, that's a fucking tight window. Like,
yeah, it's not a lot of time. Hi, Mitzi.
Like, yeah, it's a lot, Mitzi. There are some times where, just based on the deck or the matchup or how the cards draw, you're done in like 10 minutes and you've got like a fucking hour to kill. But a lot of the times you end up going to time, you go to turns, whatever. So we're just like, it's just like, it's part of the rules. It's also just part of our culture and etiquette that we do not ask to look at cards in tournaments. Nobody. Sometimes I will, but I'll always say it like as I'm already picking up the card. Like I've already got it in my hand. I'll be like, can I look at this? Like it's just, there's really no reason for me to have said, I might as well be saying, I'm looking at this card now. Like it's useless. It's useless language, but it's just so baked in. It's just so part of how we operate. And I can forget when I'm playing with more casual people that that's not how they operate. That's not a built-in expectation or even really built-in rule of the way that they play Magic.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I think that the expectation there is like, oh, if you want to know what a card does, you can just ask. But I am more of a visual person, for example. Mm-hmm. Like I kind of want to see the words versus you just say a bunch of stuff that also may not even be the words on the card. Like you are trying to shortcut it in a way that makes sense to your head, but doesn't necessarily make sense in mine. So I don't know. I feel like it is helpful for the person to actually be able to read the text on the card. And I get that in more social settings, games of Commander, for example, people may have like these special versions of various cards. And obviously those versions are not cheap a lot of the time. And yeah, you probably don't want other folks just mangling your stuff. But yeah, realistically, like what kind of damage can I do with my little fingers,
Yeah, it's it's just not a lot of damage. Like it's really like not a big threat. It's not like these are also it's always either a situation of your cards are sleeved, in which case, okay, like I'm not even like transferring like oil onto your card, right? Like it's got protection. Or they're unsleeved, in which case it's like you don't really get to talk. Like,
Yeah, you
like,
clearly don't care anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it just doesn't fucking matter. And yeah, but it is different. It is different for casual play. Like in tournament play, it's very much like these are all game pieces. We're allowed to look at the game pieces at any time. Going to look at the game pieces at any time, et cetera, et cetera. For casual play, it almost feels less like they treat it like game pieces and more like they treat it like personal possessions that they're like showing each other.
Yeah, I definitely
and
agree
not
with
like
that.
putting pieces down on the same game board. It's more just like, look at this cool alt art that I have. Look
Yeah,
at this cool foil.
I'm displaying my art collection.
Yeah, is really how it feels.
You should probably ask before you touch my Mona Lisa or whatever.
Yeah. And so it's just not part of how they operate because they're just showing off their art. They're just showing off their cool little toys. And if you want to see it, you ask what it does, whatever. Which is interesting to me because I feel like I need to pick up cards more in games of Commander than anywhere else because there's so many board states and it's such a fucking mess. And like the card pool, like the legal card pool is such a fucking nightmare. All the time people are playing bullshit I've never seen in my life, And I'm like, just let me see what this is. I have to keep in my head not only this card, but everyone else's bullshit to understand like how this is interacting. And two of these boards are in like literal physical positions that are not normal. Like it's not like my brain is not as accustomed to seeing a board state diagonal of me or even to my right or to my left than it is just seeing an opponent's board state right across from me.
Right.
So there's all this shit that makes it like really, really hard to keep up with board states in Commander. And so naturally, it's just like the format where I want to touch cards the most, which is fucked because it's the format where they want me to touch cards the least.
I guess the thing there is that you're supposed to care less, I suppose. Maybe that's the expectation, but I do think that a lot of this comes down to like, I don't know, when you're interacting with humans, you can play around this stuff pretty easily just by like, asking before you do a thing, even though competitive has maybe like taught us to kind of skip that step.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is how I feel about it. And this is an unfortunate position to land on because like at that pre-release, I was kind of pissed off at that guy. Like when that guy was mad that I touched his card, I was just like, calm the fuck on, dude. Like I was, I very much felt like you are wrong and I am correct. But I think the position I'm landing on is we as competitive players, I think need to understand that we are the most entrenched and enfranchised Magic players in all of Magic. Like we basically, I mean, almost every competitive player I know worked their way into that from casual play. Like I don't think I've ever met someone who was like, yeah, I started with competitive play and then I started getting into casual. And I was like, this is interesting. Like that's basically always the pipeline. So we have a better understanding of the whole picture than your average casual player does. And we are also a niche community of a niche community. And it is so good for us for competitive play to grow. Like it is good for, if you like playing competitive Magic, it is in your best interest for competitive Magic to be successful and for people to like it, for people to want to engage with it, all these things. So I think kind of by default, it is on us to be like good stewards of the game, really, and we need to be good enough to be able to understand, like, hey, this is not how I default play Magic. This is not even the rules of this event, but this is the expectation of the people I'm playing with, who are less enfranchised than me, who are less invested than me, who are less entrenched in this game than I am.
Yep.
Like all of these things. I think the onus is really on us to adapt our play style, not expect casual players to adapt to us.
I definitely agree with that a lot. Thing that I think about, which I don't think many other people in my position do think about, is the amount of net fun that is being had in the room going up by my presence. And as someone who is, sort of an ambassador, not to like any given company anymore, but to the game itself, is just like, I do feel like some amount of responsibility and pressure there to try to ensure that my presence is a net positive for other folks, because otherwise what's the fucking point, So
yeah,
for example, like I will very oftentimes like go to a pre-release and not play. And I will happily engage with people. I will help them build their decks if they want. I'll play games if someone wants to hand me like their deck to play against someone or whatever. But I feel like if I play in a pre-release and like take packs out of the prize pool, it is probably less fun for people.
Yeah, well, it's also just like, that is like a different goal than your normal like tournament Magic goal, right? Like,
yeah,
when you sit down at like the RC, the goal is not like, let's all have fun. Like we probably are, like the room on average is probably going to have fun, just because like if you're at the RC, you're probably just the kind of sicko who enjoys playing competitive Magic for stakes. Like it's just, you are having fun, even if like a random onlooker would watch your game and be like, this looks fucking miserable. Like neither of these people look happy. Like it's just, you're probably just having a good time. But at an event like a pre-release, and F&M, whatever, the objective really is and should be, make this fun. Like have fun. It's why it sucks to get the buy at pre-release. Like it sucks so bad when you've been looking forward to a set and you get there and you finally get your deck built, whatever, you're excited to game. Round one, buy. Oh, okay, cool. I get a free pack, yippee. But I just wanted to play. The whole fucking reason I came here was to play. It wasn't even to win. It was just to play. Like, I just want to fucking play with these cards. And now I am robbed of that.
But I don't know. Console yourself with your booster pack, I suppose. Hope one of your friends finishes very quickly so you can at least battle them.
Yeah. I mean, I think a tricky part of this is I do think it is like kind of legitimately hard to turn it off. Like to turn off like the sort of competitive grinder mindset. Especially if you're not practiced at it. Like you and I, as we discussed, are practiced at it for our own unique reasons that most people don't share, right? Like most tournament grinders are not sitting here worried about their like content creation career or whatever. So you and I are already like, we have had to put in work on this, but I do think it's hard. Like I mean, even being practiced at it, like it's hard for me to turn it off. Like it's to like sit there in a game and not just like be exercising my brain in the way that I do in a tournament setting. It's like it's difficult for some reason. Like it's difficult to be like, oh, we can just chill on this one, you know?
Yeah, like I said, I can do it, right? But it is not a thing that I want to do throughout the entirety of a weekend, you know? And I don't know. I feel like that is just the cost of doing business. I think playing in the pro tours themselves are like the only place where you mostly don't have to worry about it. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even then, it's like you might not be playing in the pro tour all weekend, like assuming it's happening at a
Right.
Magic Con or something, right? If
Right,
you
right,
go
right.
play in another event, or you have some sort of like sponsored opportunity or
Mm-hmm.
whatever where you have to play
Mm-hmm.
games against someone, like then you have to code switch, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, the pro tours themselves and like maybe on day 2 of the RC, it's kind of a lock, but I don't think that it's a thing that you can necessarily get away from. And I think that there has been a lot of blending between the casual and competitive crowds and
Mm-hmm.
the mindsets that go along with that. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I do think that if you don't want to inadvertently come across as like an asshole to someone, like you better start trying to figure out like where you're supposed to behave in what way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and like I don't know. I think especially when we find ourselves in situations of FNMs and pre-release, it almost feels like we're entering someone else's house, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's really like that is the casual player's domain. And I think we should kind of treat it as such. Like I think we should kind of treat it as like I am a guest in the casual player's home and I'm going to like follow the casual player's, you know, rules and customs and whatever.
Right.
And I think it's easy to not think of it like that because again, we all like came through that pipeline. And so it feels less like entering a stranger's home and maybe more like, you know, coming home to your childhood house for Christmas or whatever. You know, like it feels more just like, oh, this is my house that I used to be in. And so like I
Yeah.
can kind of do whatever.
But like what happens when you go to a new person's home and you
Mm-hmm.
see that there is a pile of shoes by the door and the host is not wearing their shoes? Like you
Yeah.
take your shoes off at the door. Clearly there is that kind of like expectation,
Yeah.
and you do the polite thing,
Right.
whether or not you like
Oh
keep your
no, that's
shoes
what
on
you
at
do at
your
your
house.
house. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's completely different. You're not in your house anymore, right?
Yeah.
So
Or even if you think that's a dumb thing, like even if you're like, I hate people who fucking take their shoes off inside. I love tracking the street into my house.
love it. Yeah.
I love having to vacuum and mop all the time. Uh, Even if that's how you feel, when you get to their house and you see that's what they do, you don't sit there and go, "Oh, this is stupid. I won't be doing this," because
Yeah,
that
let's
would
pick a
make
fight. Let's pick
you
a
an
fight over
asshole.
this right now.
Yeah, that would make you an asshole. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, she laying down.
She's having a little lay. Yeah, I think it's really like our job. I think I was wrong at that pre-release to not ask to touch the guy's card. I think I was wrong to be mad that he asked me to ask to touch the cards. Uh, I think that was just me failing to code switch in that
Yeah.
situation. I think that was me failing to like meet the expectations and customs of the place I was in. And that's like my bad. Sorry, dude.
Yep. I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you can go about it both ways where it's like, well, if I'm picking up your piece of art without asking, obviously that's kind of messed up, right? But if I'm picking up like your sleeved common at a pre-release without asking, I think that's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they can chill out on that. But also, like, people in the competitive mindset can just avoid the situation entirely by simply just asking.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, and I mean, it is just easier. It's just easier for us to adjust down than it is for us to ask them to adjust up, because it's probably not even a thing they're thinking about, because they are not engaged and entrenched enough to even realize that this is a fucking thing. Like, they might not even know that card touching is like a discourse that comes up in the space.
Yeah.
It might just be their expectation of like, people should ask to touch my things.
Yeah, and I think you ask any person who's like super far removed, has never played Magic. It's like, okay, so I'm sitting down, I have my cards, you have your cards. I want to read your card. How do you think that should go down? I don't think many people are just going to be like, just grab their thing.
Yeah.
Right? I think the normal response is going to be like, I don't know, you probably ask them first.
Yeah. Our like, as competitive people, our etiquette on it is the strange one. Like, ours is the bizarre, like it's weird. Like, it makes sense if you consider the whole context of why we do it the way we do it. But like, divorced from that context, it just seems weird. People would be like, what? You just grab them without saying anything, and then the other person is just like, yeah, cool. And it's like, yeah, that is how we operate.
I think it's very interesting when you think about how, I don't know, there used to be a lot more riffle shuffling back in the day. Just like,
yep.
And then you would go to grab your opponent's deck and shuffle their deck, and people would not even look weird at you if you riffle shuffle your opponent's deck. But that over the years began to change, where it's like, even if I riffle shuffle my deck, there is still an expectation that you do not riffle shuffle mine.
Yeah. Even though technically you can.
Are you technically allowed to like riffle shuffle your opponent's cards when you shuffle their deck? Like, I don't, because I'm pretty sure there's got to be something in there about you are not allowed to like mark your opponent's cards.
Yeah, surely not. But like, I mean, I don't think you could riffle shuffle them in such a way that like you are obviously trying to damage them. But I think you are allowed to just riffle shuffle. Like, I think you're allowed to do what you need to do to like sufficiently randomize it. And I think riffle shuffling is allowed. Like, I'm sure they could call a judge, and I think it's likely the judge would just say like, would you please just not do that? Like, and I don't know. I think it's really like, I think you have to want to be an asshole to be doing it in the first place. I think if you really wanted to be an asshole, you could probably keep doing it.
I don't know. I mean, especially because
I'm texting Pro Tour Judge Elliot Raff right now.
Okay. I feel like standard maybe, but like even as far back as modern, it's probably just like that should not be allowed when everyone's deck is like $1,000.
Big. If I hand my opponent my deck during a big competitive event, so
is riffle shuffling
shuffle / cut, are they allowed to riffle shuffle my deck? Okay, we'll see what Elliot says.
Regardless if it's technically allowed, it is basically
asshole behavior. It's asshole behavior. Yeah.
No one does it, and for good reason. And when someone would do it, they would be like, the community would then point at this person and be like, look at this inconsiderate asshole. So like, there is some amount of awareness that we have in the competitive sphere where we are willing to make certain amount of sacrifices in quotes. It's like not much of a sacrifice to just shuffle a different way, but yeah, there's some amount of willingness, I guess, to keep in mind the fact that they are your opponent's possessions, or at least your opponent borrowed them from someone else, and it's like,
right, yeah,
that person probably has an expectation of getting them back in decent condition.
Yeah. Which, if I have borrowed cards, it is like the most care I am ever putting forth towards cards. Like, if I have a deck of my own cards, A deck of my own cards hates to see me coming.
Yep.
I will abuse those bad boys so hard. I could not really care less about how much of a beating they take. If I'm borrowing your card, I've got Precious Cargo. I've got Precious Cargo in my
Baby
deck.
on board.
I've got Baby on board, and I'm treating it as such. I want to get
your deck calls you mommy.
yeah. I want to get little Baby on board stickers that I can put on to like inner sleeves, so that way I could like mark which cards are borrowed. Just be like Baby on board.
Yeah, the ones without the sticker you can just grab.
Yeah,
right?
you can. Yeah,
but the Baby on board ones you must ask first.
You have to ask. That's a fucking big deal. Oh, that's a good. Keep an eye out for the first piece of Nile Gerry Tea merch drop. Baby on board inner sleeves.
And then you see people rocking them at a pre-release, and it's like, look, I think you missed the point.
I'm gonna die.
They're like, yo, this is my Precious Cargo basic land from the store's basic land box.
I'm not dead. Yeah. Actually, that would go so hard though. Like if you got like inner sleeves that were custom made, and the inner sleeves had like caution tape border, and it said like Baby on board, and you just inner sleeve just your borrowed cards with those, and then do regular inners for the other ones. That's great. This is $1 million idea.
Yep.
Well, not really. The competitive scene is so small, and they famously hate buying things. So
they do, but they just buy dumb shit all the time, but not stuff like this.
Not stuff like this. It's really cute though.
That's a good idea.
It would make dozens of dollars.
Oh yeah. You'd have to put in tens of thousands of dollars, but you would get dozens.
Yeah, it would lose me thousands. It would lose me thousands to pursue this for sure.
Sounds great.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
That's at least in like the top 100 ideas that I've ever had, you know. So.
Yeah. Welcome to the new segment, Nile's Job of the Week, where Nile gives herself a new job to do.
Yeah, Nile, how's coaching a pro team coming along? We got any offers yet?
No one's taken me up on being the PT testing house manager /
oh yeah.
Whatever.
See,
again,
they hate spending money.
They hate spending money. They hate spending money.
And this is actually a thing with a good ROI for them. You know, if you're going to spend money.
Oh yeah. Oh, this would be sick for them. But like, they hate spending money.
Feel like the pro house that you were in probably did not take their shoes off at the door. That's what I'm guessing.
I'm trying to remember. I think they did actually, for the most part. I remember. Yeah, they did for sure. I remember there being a pile of shoes. Yeah, 100%. Now, whether or not everybody was adhering to this, I'll never tell.
Oh,
because I don't remember, but probably not. Almost certainly not. There had to be people that were just full shoe booting around the house like crazy. I took my shoes off when I was in there filming.
Natural.
Play that much.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't know what the house rules are, but you can just play around it. You can just default.
That is also my default though. You know, like someone would have to be like, wear shoes on household. And I'd have to be like, oh, okay. Sure. If that's what you want. You know?
Yeah.
Usually, even though I am a shoes off house, when people come over, they're like, are you a shoes on or off place? And I'm always like, whatever makes you comfortable.
Yeah, I don't care.
But then, you know, I'm also like taking my shoes off as I say it. So usually they follow suit, but not always. But you know,
it's a ballsy maneuver to then be like, okay, I will keep them on. You are taking yours off. I will keep mine on.
Pro Tour Judge Elliot Raff says there is no rule that says they can't. So They're allowed to riffle shuffle. This just in. You can be a big ol' asshole to your opponent. Newsflash, you may not know this about Magic. You can be a dick.
Yeah, I did know that already. I did not know that it was like codified into the rules, but today I learned.
Well, it's just not codified into the rules to not be a dick. I think that's the real
I feel
thing.
like that might be an oversight.
Yeah. Oh, they should have put that in. That would go crazy. Judge, my opponent's being a bit of a dick.
But then you just called your opponent a dick. So now
Yeah, I know. Then it's a
have the
double DQ.
USC
It's
minor.
a double DQ. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You both.
If
get
you
a game
point it
lost.
out, if you narc, you're the dick now.
Yeah. You have to call a judge over for something else and hope
Yeah.
that they see the opponent being a dick. But yeah, so I don't know. The rules are different. The etiquette's different. Casual play is different. And again, I really think it's on us to make their experience good. And I think it's easier for us. I think we're more prepared to do it. I think it just only makes sense for us to kind of meet them where they live than for them to meet us where we live. And I think the more that we can start to do shit like this, the more that we can get casual players to be less scared of and intimidated by competitive play. Because I think I know for a fact many casual players have been soured on the idea of competitive play entirely because some motherfucker shows up at F&M, plays it like it's the RC, gives them a miserable experience, 2-0s them, and they're just like, oh, I played this tournament guy once and it was like the least fun I've ever had playing Magic. And it's like, well, yeah, because you two met with different intentions and expectations about what this game was going to be like. And, you know, you got steamrolled because of that. Like, of course you had a bad time. Of course you had a bad fucking time.
Well, I think even if they beat the tournament person then like complains or something.
Oh, the tournament person does not handle that well.
Yeah, and they go out of their way to be like reductive towards the other person's accomplishment. You're like, oh, you only won because you
just pulled this card. Yeah. Sealed's a bullshit format now. Play boosters, you know, whatever.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think about what your goals are. Like, yeah, you might be a person whose goal is to get to the Pro Tour or whatever, but in order to want to be able to do that for a decent amount of time, I don't know, you kind of need there to be players and you need people to be having fun while playing the game. If you just scare everyone off, then who do you have to beat up on?
Exactly. And the bigger the Pro Tour, start to get bigger prizes.
In theory, that's not.
In theory,
that's not actually how it works. Unfortunately, that's the trickle down economics of Magic.
It's gonna work. It's gonna work if we just get a big enough Pro Tour. If we just get a big enough Pro Tour. Eventually, they'll have to, right? Like they'll just have to, because
surely they'll have to then also give more money.
They'll have to, because the PT gets so big that it stops being like it's like, well, why would I go to this thing where I have to like spike a fucking 2,000 person tournament to make?
We're already at that place.
Well, it's like a 300 person
they are
tournament.
purposely keeping the Pro Tour small.
Yeah, so they don't have to give money.
Well, I also think that they're giving away too much money currently.
Wow.
For how big the tournaments are. I think that they should be bigger and maybe have like the same rough prize pool, but
the cloud promos are like $4,000 right now.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. A whole nother episode sometime, maybe.
Perhaps.
Mayhaps.
Yeah, the promos are a great idea. It only took them 30 years to implement.
Oops. Well, Jerry, do you have anything else to say about etiquette, code switching, any of that?
I find it funny that when I'm in the South, I suddenly have a Southern accent. You know?
That's how it goes.
And it is how it goes. And if I play against someone who's a little bit more casual, a little bit more chatty, if they're a positive person, suddenly I'm going to be like a little bit more chatty too. You know, I don't think that costs me very much. And I think that it is just beneficial to Magic as a game, whatever venue you're playing at. I think as a person who is interacting with other human beings, it maybe makes that human being's day a little bit better. And I do value that. And I think maybe not enough people do.
Yeah.
Makes me a little sad, you know?
Yeah, you should give a shit about the actual human across the table.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think it goes a long way for a lot of stuff, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Well, this brings us to one of our favorite parts of the episode, the Briar segment, the questions, the Q&A segment. And as always, we do have a question from our good friend Briar.
Hell yeah.
Thank you, Briar. So Briar's question this week is, what are some ways you could see physical magic having improved accessibility? I think the tabletop standees / handouts and pre-releases that go over what certain color combos are looking to do, like we saw in Capenna, Tarkir, etc., are a very nice inclusion, especially for less experienced players. What are other things that WPN and LGSs at large could be doing? And or what would you want them to do if Wizards suddenly decided to invest unlimited money in paper magic accessibility? And that's this is the thing I've thought a lot about. And okay. If we're talking truly unlimited money, then I think the easy answer is have a staff of like 15 people who are just at the pre-release, where you're like, hey, if you have any questions or want any help, not like judges, but just like people like me, you know?
Yeah.
Be like, hey, if you want any help at all, these nice people will come talk to you. They'll help you build your whole deck. They'll do everything. That's the unlimited money option. And I think that's like the best possible solution, because Magic is so a game that benefits from having someone walk you through it. That's an unreasonable concept. I think what would be good, and what I think is within the realm of possibility, is if Wizards, as part of their like ad campaigns for these things, hired somebody to make a very specific type of video for each pre-release. That's like, hey, welcome to pre-release. Here's the key concepts of this set. Here's cards to look out for. You know, like a 2-minute video that's like, here's a crash course on what to do, what to look for. And if they just played that before pre-release, when they did the combat rule change to how like blocker damage was assigned, I made a video about it, and a lot of people really liked it because they felt like it did a really good job of explaining this kind of weird concept. And I had multiple people tell me that at their pre-release event that weekend, their LGS played my video.
Dope.
For everyone before the thing started. And I was like, that's actually a really sick idea.
Yeah.
To like play something, like play a video that explains this stuff just right before the pre-release. And that way judges don't have to like have this script that they read that like no one's listening to, you know, like it's, I just think it would be better. And like every LGS is equipped for this basically, you know, like it's so doable. And all WotC has to do is one of the people they hire to make an ad just be like, make this specific thing, and we're going to play it at pre-releases. That would be my solution. What about you, Ger?
I mean, it depends how far down the accessibility rabbit hole you want to go, I guess. Like, to me, it's kind of weird for like LGSs specifically, because oftentimes they're like renting a space and don't have a whole lot of choice or option in terms of like what they can do to be accommodating in the venue itself. Like, is the place that they're renting like wheelchair accessible, for example? And do they have enough space to provide like assigned seating or something like that for someone like that? I've been to a few places that are really good about this, and then I've been to many, many other places that put zero thought into this. And there are definitely, I think, places where they have the opportunity to do things like that and choose not to. But I think for the most part, it's just like they kind of have what they have, and there's not a whole lot that they can do about it, which is unfortunate. But I also think about in Seattle at one of the LGSs, I played against a player who was blind, and he had put Braille on the front of his cards, and
that's sick as fuck.
Yeah, like playing against him was very interesting because he was just like, hey, just I'm blind, and if you could just like announce the full card name of like the cards that you play, that would be very helpful for me. And he was so good at being able to just track the board state despite not being able to see.
That's so crazy.
And that was fairly enlightening in terms of like, okay, yeah, maybe this game can be more accessible if they did literally anything to help it along. Like I think like technically the sleeves with the Braille on them are probably like, there was like a little bit of like space in between each card or whatever.
Right.
It's like, those cards are marked
or whatever.
Yeah, they're marked, but it's like also the guy's blind. He can't see. He can't see that the cards are marked. So who cares? So I think that there's so many things that they could do. And I wonder if any of the companies have looked into anything like that in terms of like, Braille on sleeves sort of thing. And I don't know, even thinking about that, it's just like, what if you want to change like a card in your deck? You then have to like, make a brand new sleeve.
Yeah.
So it is pretty annoying, but I think the possibilities are kind of endless in that regard.
Yeah, well, you could also just like have a person with you, right? Like who is like a sighted person who is like allowed to tell you like every card that you draw, is allowed to announce any cards on the board, is obviously not allowed to like be like, you should play this, or like give advice or whatever, but it's just allowed to be like, you drew sleight of hand, you drew an island. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of weird where it's like if I'm their opponent, are they just like whispering?
I think they would have to be whispering.
Like what if I could still, the person's whispering a little bit loudly, and
that's tough. That's tough, But I mean, with the Braille sleeves, what if you can tell where their fucking card is because you can see that it's marked,
Yeah, I think certainly try to not do that.
Yeah. But you know, like it's
like I'm gonna actively just ignore what their deck looks like and hope it doesn't tip over.
Right. But Briar, thank you for the question. I hope that answers it. We always appreciate you sending them in. And Jerry, I think that about does it. I think that about does it for this one. This is the first time in a long time I think we've kept it under an hour. Legally speaking, we've kept it under an hour.
Yeah, I said that the optimal time for this is probably like 45 minutes. And we kept going over. So I don't know. I'm kind of happy about this.
I think it's great. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate you dearly, sincerely. And we'll see you again in a week. Bye-bye. LOL, lots of love.